From singer, songwriter, musician, performance artist, director, and overall celebrity, Taylor Swift is at the top of the charts in everything. And you can add good leader to that list of accolades because in a time where it seems like there's not a lot of good examples of quality leaders out there to use as an example, Taylor Swift's actions prove that she is a good example and someone you can actually look up to. And on this episode of the Libretti Leadership Lab, we're going to get into that. Guys, if you get any value out of this video, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and put your notifications on so you know when future videos are going to drop. And if you leave the comment leadership at the bottom, we'll give you a shout out in a future episode. Love you guys. Stay strong. All right, this is Libretti Leadership Lab number 13, lucky number 13. How fitting, because we're talking about Taylor Swift. I'm your host, John Libretti. For those of you who don't know me, I was a prior military officer for 14 years. Now I'm the founder of SPEARHEAD leadership coaching and consulting company. We're the bar rescue for your business. We get in the trenches of your business with you to turn your high performers into skilled leaders and help you solve your biggest problems in your business and help lead to your long-term success. If you want to learn more about what we do and how we do it, you can check out our website, www.spearheadleadership.co. We're on Instagram at _SpearheadLeadership. We're on LinkedIn at Spearhead Leadership. And now we're on TikTok at Spearhead Leadership. You can check out our content there. Real world will have a week for the music industry, for the Swifties out there. And I wanted to take this opportunity in this episode to give Taylor her flowers as if she doesn't, she deserves it as it is. We already know that. But this kind of serves as a good opportunity for us to get into what an example of a good leader actually is this day and age. Now, we can look at historical figures. We do that a lot here. I look at a lot of athletes. I talk about a lot of athletes being examples of good leaders, mainly because I am a prior athlete myself. I love sports, so I draw a lot of my experiences in the sports world and my interest in it to translate over into the leadership space. But for other people out there who are not into, military history or old presidential history or sports, Taylor Swift is a great example of a good leader and someone you can emulate in that regard, and we're going to get into that a little bit as to why. There's a number of reasons. If you're a Swiftie and you're tuning into this, you already know why. But for those of you who are not into the Taylor Swift movement, we're gonna get into that a little bit. Now, she was on a podcast recently. It's her boyfriend's podcast. Travis Kelce and his brother Jason Kelce did the New Heights podcast. It's a good show. I tune into it every once in a while already because it's mainly geared around sports and football more specifically, but sports in general. So again, right up my alley. But this was like the first long form conversational style interview I think she's ever done. So it was a big deal in the Swiftie community, and it became a big deal worldwide. Because after that interview came out, after she announced her new album coming out in October and showed the album artwork and the color scheme and everything behind that, all these other companies and organizations started to change their logo to be Taylor Swift colors, Taylor Swift design, everything Swiftie, basically. And she has that level of impact. I think a lot of people already know this, even if you don't like her music or pay attention to her that much or don't consider yourself the Swiftie. You know the impact she's had and the positive stranglehold she's had in the music world for a long time now. So that came out, and I was watching that episode. And first and foremost, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I personally, and I have to admit this, I don't know much of her music. I don't know all the names of her songs. I'm sure I know I've heard a bunch of them in the past throughout the years, and I never disliked any of them, but I would not consider myself the Swiftie in the fact that I'm a fan of all her songs and I know all the nuance behind the lyrics and what who she's talking about in this song and what it means and when it came out and all this stuff. I'm not good at that stuff in general. Don't I don't I don't pay attention to it. I'm a fan of Taylor Swift for basically everything else about her, her business savviness and all the other thing that goes with why she's such a huge success. Now, oftentimes when you are that successful and that high profile, you become a different person altogether. I think we all can harken back, for lack of a more simpler term, to examples of celebrities, pro athletes, higher profile businessmen or women that are in the limelight that you think are examples of good leaders, and you look up to them, and then you find out stories behind the scenes. They're not great people, or they're breaking the law, or committing crimes, and they're actually frauds, and they're all talk. Things like that. They're terrible to their employees, whatever. We see that far too often these days, that people put on this show in front of the cameras, but behind the cameras, they're vastly different people. And it's tough to find, again, a good example of someone to emulate in the leadership space because of that. Now I think we have another celebrity that we can look to as an example of a good leader. And I'll jump right into it. Taylor Swift, I wrote down a number of reasons why, just off the top of my head and based off of just the surface level, recon I've been doing on her recently, and then the stuff I already knew about her. And I'm sure, again, like I said, I'm sure the Swifties know far more about her history and the examples I'm going to be discussing, and they can provide even further detail. So if you are tuning into this, put them in the comments, all the things I missed that make her so great and make her such a good example of a quality leader. But let's start with her business savviness, her knowledge of her industry, and how to become a success in that industry, a wild success in that industry, is second to none. She knows the different nuances of the business aspect of the music world to be able to empower her team to see success in each of those different aspects. Now, that's something, as if you're a business owner, most especially small business owners, solo entrepreneurs that are just starting a business, you're probably very good at the thing you're starting your business around. You're a very high performer, you're very skilled, passionate about that. But now you have to learn the behind the scenes of that world, that industry that you're starting your business in, to kind of figure out how to navigate and lead. Because what is the thing people always say? Don't work in your business, work on your business. If you're too busy working in your business, you're not focused too much, enough on whatever. She knows her business, the inner workings of her business, so that she can work on it. And her business is her per se, but it's everything that comes with that. And she knows it very well. She knows about the differences, and she knew this early on. She was talking about it in the interview that she did on New Heights. She knows about the difference between like the masters, the songs that come out, the ensembles with the vocals, music, all the stuff that comes with the song is considered the masters, I guess. I'm not familiar, like I said, I'm not tuned into the music industry per se, but she is. She's always owned her publishing side, which is a different aspect of the music industry that comes with knowledge and experience that she has, and she has elevated far better than other musicians in the space. She knows when to approve people using her music, and all the little, I keep saying nuances, but all the little nuances essentially behind that. And because she has that knowledge, she can now empower her team and enable her team to go out and execute to succeed in all those different aspects of the industry. She doesn't have to do it herself. She has a whole team of people that she's leading now to get that done. So having an understanding of the general business of the general industry and the roles of the people on your team, now you can actually enable them to succeed far better in those roles because you have that big picture understanding. She's got it. The next thing I noticed was how humble and I for you can call it regular she is. How normal of a person she is, considering how high up she is in the success of her industry. She's the number one thing going right now. She's the top of the world. Everybody who's anybody who has electricity in their general vicinity knows about Taylor Swift. And I said it before, when you get to those levels of fame and celebrity, a lot of people change. And they're different behind the camera. They get into that ivory tower and it gets real easy to look down on everybody else. And she's the exact opposite. She is the exact opposite. She is a normal human being. If you didn't recognize her face and you saw this person, you saw her in a crowd or out at a store, you would just think she's a regular, nice, kind human being. Yet she is the biggest thing going. And that is something that you can take in any level you're at in your business, if you're a business owner, if you're working for a company, whatever level you're at, whether you're the CEO or the summer intern, being humble and a genuinely kind human being will take you everywhere you want to go. So again, another great example for you guys listening right now to take with you and sort of emulate. The next thing that was wildly impressive to me, all these were wildly impressive, by the way. So her dedication to her process and her focus on her values and how that actually elevated her to the success she has. She cares basically about pouring her soul into her music and making sure the fans have an unforgettable experience. Not just listening to her albums, not just going to her concerts, but just being a fan of hers is going to be a life-changing experience for her fans. And she's created a process to ensure that happens. And she never wavers from that process. She is not sitting there chasing money or more fame or more power or more influence. The goals have not changed. The focus and the purpose has not changed for her. It's about creating good music and pouring her soul into what she's passionate about, the good music, and it's about her fans. And again, she's created that whole process around ensuring both of those succeed. And because of that, she has elevated herself to the top. You notice in the business world, in the government, in the military, all the time, this happens in the sports world too. As people start to reach higher levels of success and growth, they start to shift their priorities and forgot about what got them there, what got them that growth and success. Then it starts to become about, oh, profits is the main goal. I've made, this much money this year. Let me try to go for this much money next year. And then it becomes the dragon you're chasing, and you forgot how you got there in the first place. And it starts becoming only about money and fame and success and whatever. And you forget about the team, you forget about your customer, you forget about your process and your purpose. And she has not done that. And that's why she's so high up. I say it a lot But in the business world, in the corporate world these days, I believe it has flipped a 180, almost flipped upside down on what the priorities should be. The priorities right now are so focused on quarterly profits and shareholder value and short-term success and aggressive short-term success, constant short-term success, that everybody's forgot about the long term and everybody's forgot about their purpose in their quest for constant instant success. Never satisfied, constant instant success for whatever reason, because they lost their purpose. And they forget that if they just stick to their purpose and follow that process, the long-term success is going to be far greater than these short-term wins. And you're exhausting a lot more effort and you're burning a lot more bridges for these short-term wins than you are if you focus on the long-term success and the strategic mission, if you will. And Taylor has not done that. She focuses on the strategic mission. And her mission is to put out the best music she can that again comes from her soul, from her heart, and that she provides the best life-changing experience for all her fans, just for being her fans, just for appreciating her effort on her music. So again, something to think about, something to take back with you. Kind of goes into the next thing I wrote down here, her work ethic. It's an unbelievable work ethic that she has. And this is something I've talked about a lot in general. The reason I believe, one of the big reasons I believe there are so few excellent leaders out there these days is not because leadership is difficult and complex or hard to understand or wrap your head around. It's because it requires a constant effort day in and day out, especially when you don't want to do it and when you think you don't need to do it. It requires that consistency and effort. And that effort is hard to do day in and day out. And most people end up falling off. They get lazy. They get seduced by success. They reach a little bit of success and they start to fall backwards again. And that's why you see it, because that's what's hard about it. It's very simple to do to be a good leader, but it's very difficult to work at it each and every day in perpetuity. And she has that work ethic. She does those little things day in and day out so that when she puts on a performance or she puts out a new album, it's the most successful thing going. And a lot of people look at it and say, oh, of course she's, it's a great concert. She's a celebrity. She's not going to put on a bad show. She's a celebrity because she worked her ass off to get to that point, and she put on the best show out there because she trained and prepared to put on this performance. If you think about it, her Eras tour was like almost 2 full years long, and it was like 3 or 4 shows a weekend, every weekend for that long, and she was traveling around the world, different time zones. Not sleeping in her own bed, hotel, buses, planes, whatever. That's exhausting after a while. It's exhausting to me if I had to do that 2 weekends in a row. She did it for almost 2 full years. And she did it through her work ethic. She talked about how she trained beforehand. She had a fitness regimen before the tour even started so that she was able to look like a naturally gifted presence up on stage, to make it look effortless on stage for the fans, so that she was able to skip in high heels and do a 3-hour show. Every show was 3+ hours, singing, dancing, changing outfits, keeping the fans engaged 4 times a week for 2 years in different time zones on no sleep, while she was also writing an album. And I'll get to that a little bit more. But it's just something to be said about the effort and work ethic. That's what gets you the success. There's no such thing as the overnight success. Yeah, you might win the lottery, but if you look at the lottery winners, most of them end up going bankrupt pretty quickly after because of that's overnight success. The work ethic and the consistent effort is what gets you there. People see on the TikTok and the social media platforms, it looks like, oh yeah, it's just so easy for her. She can naturally play piano and guitar and sing and dance. It's just so easy. Of course she's going to be good. Of course people are going to like it. She had to work for that. She didn't wake up one day and just know how to skip in 3-inch heels while playing a guitar, while playing the piano, while dancing and singing at the same time for 3 hours straight for 2 years straight. She had to work at that. While she was on this tour, traveling around the world, she was writing and prepping this upcoming album. She was still working while she was working. Most people would do their tour, take their break, and then focus on their next work, their next effort. She was doing it all simultaneously. And she also took the time to learn about different phrases and native languages of the different cities and countries she was going to be able to connect with her audience more in each area she was at. So it wasn't even it wasn't even copy and paste performances. Now, most of it was probably very similar, if not the same, but she created a custom, tailored, connected feel to each performance, each show for her fans. And that took work and effort and time for her and her team. And she did it. And that's another thing that, puts her above the rest. The most highly successful people are not the smartest and most intelligent more often than not. They're just like you and me. The difference is that effort. That persistent, constant work ethic and effort, that never quit mentality. That's what puts them at the upper echelon success, and that's what put her there. So, remember that when you don't want to do something for your business, or you think you can pack it in because you saw some success, some short-term success. Think about that. The next big thing that is wildly impressive and something we can all emulate is how much she cares about her team. She cares about her fans. We know that. The Easter eggs she puts in albums and in concerts and podcasts and everything she says and does and puts out publicly is all purposeful for her fans. And she's really the only one who's been able to keep her fans at like 100 level of engagement, even when she's not actively touring or doesn't have an album out yet, like a new album out. If you think of another example of a musical artist, Rihanna's very successful, very popular. She's up there. She hasn't put out an album in years. She does not get the level of publicity and fan engagement now as she's in sort of that lull. She came out for some Super Bowl halftime shows and some commercials and stuff like that, here and there. But there is the lull. There's that cyclical sort of lull that most celebrities, most famous people in the limelight go through. She's up here all the time at 100 with her fan base, because she's either doing a tour, which is a life-changing tour for her fans, or she has an album actively out, or once her album is not out, she's putting out little Easter eggs for her fans to stay engaged and do a little investigations and put their little the red yarn on the wall to figure out what she said this here, and she had this here next to her in this color. What does it mean for her future album that we don't know when it's coming out? And then she announces an album, and then everybody explodes. And now there's more speculating and more looking for Easter eggs and more anticipation. She's always got her fans engaged. She's always focused on that, but she also cares about her team and appreciates the value they bring to that success. And she said it multiple times on that New Heights episode she did. And I believe there's plenty of examples of people coming out saying behind the scenes how well she takes care of her team. And she is demanding. Her schedule that she creates, the shows that she puts on, those are not easy to put on. She's demanding a lot of her team. She has her team scour the internet to look for fan theories so that she can put out like future Easter eggs to show her fans, like, yes, I saw your theory and I pay attention to it. She has teams of people helping her gather that intel, that information. And it's a constant effort on her team. And she knows that. And that is one thing, again, about good leaders is that there is a way to be demanding and have high expectations of your team without burning them out, and by showing them how valuable they are to the team's success, and by truly caring about them, not just by throwing them the simple pizza party or giving them a $500 bonus at the end of the year, when really you can be doing so much more. And yes, you can give cash bonuses. She has given significant bonuses to her team after concerts and after tours and stuff like that. But she also genuinely seems to care about her team members. She makes them feel like each of them is a highly valued member of the team, because they are. Because she understands that her success is not where it would have been if she didn't have this team behind her working just as hard as she does. And when you value your people, the success is unlimited, because those high performers that you have are going to keep wanting to work harder for you because you value them so much and you take care of them so much and you care about them so much. You have such good relationships with them. She genuinely seems to have good relationships with everybody that works on her team. That's a very rare thing these days, especially in the business world. And that is one thing I talk about and I harp on, and Spearhead Leadership prides itself on, is we help you build better relationships with your people, because that's the most important thing. If you don't care about your people, you're never going to reach the business success you're looking for. You're also probably focused on poor, priorities, but good relationships make leadership so much easier. And she knows that. And she has good relationships with her team, and it makes everything else easier. Even when you're dealing with problems and hurdles and issues, it makes handling those so much easier and smoother, because you have a good, tight-knit relationship with each other, and you know you can get through it together. The last thing I put is really just in general, she's just a genuinely good person that cares about others. And that goes back to directly what I was just talking about. When you care about people, when you show kindness, when you're not, niceness and kindness are different. Okay? You can be nice in the words you speak, in how you verbalize things, and you can be surface level nice to people, but kindness is through your actions. How well you listen to others that are speaking to you, how well you take in advice and feedback from your team, how well you show you care about the loved ones in your life through your actions. And she seems to be through that 2 hour interview she did, plus all the other stories and anecdotes from people behind the scenes that know her well, or that have interacted with her. She seems to genuinely just be a kind human being and cares about others. And when you have that in your heart, and you show gratitude and you're humble, everything else will fall into place eventually. And she's proven that. There's never been a time where she initiated negative things towards somebody, where she was there's no stories of her being a piece of garbage to anybody in her team, having bad interactions with a fan, nothing like that. She just is a genuinely kind and humble human being who cares about others. Now she makes mistakes. Obviously, we all make mistakes. We're human. She might have opinions and ideas that we disagree with. Again, we're humans. We're not supposed to think alike all the time. That would be weird. But when you genuinely care about others, those around you, good things are going to happen. And again, I don't know nearly as much as others about the specifics of her lyrical genius, her lyrical prowess, and the music side of the house. I'm just talking about her as a leader today and all those examples, all those things she does behind the scenes and the effort and all that. Take that, write these down, go back and rewind this episode and write each of those things down that I just talked about and try to emulate that in your own life. That doesn't mean you have to go be a super famous musician or celebrity. Do that in your business. Do that in your relationship with your husband or wife or your kids or your friends. Take these things. These things can be applied to all aspects of your life so that you become a better leader in life. And that's another thing we preach at Spearhead is leadership is a skill that you can use and should be using in your everyday life, not just in your job or your business. So take after Taylor Swift and you'll likely be a better person for it, a better leader for it. You'll see a lot more success in your life and your business and your jobs, what have you, just by doing that. And that's all I got to say about that today, guys. Before we go, very quickly, the big three. I always like to talk about this. The three pillars. These are part of the Spearhead Leadership core values, part of Libretti Leadership Lab core values, and part of my personal core values as well. They're the three pillars to staying strong and being a better, happier, kinder, healthier, less stressed, more genuine human being, and being a better leader overall in life. Number one, exercise every day. Do one thing each and every day to improve your fitness, health, and wellness, either physically, mentally, or emotionally. So whether that's doing a workout at the gym or a physical activity, or whether it's breaking the mental sweat, reading a book, doing a crossword puzzle, Sudoku, or the emotional side of the house, praying, breath work, meditation, something for the soul. Do one thing every day to exercise. Number two, probably the hardest one to do, don't be a negative, crappy person, be a kind person. Our lives are flooded with negativity constantly, all the time. On the internet, on the computer, on our phones, on TV, we're getting flooded with it. And our brains are genetically predisposed to be looking for the negative as a survival instinct so that we can ward off against it. Because of that, it makes it a lot easier to respond to that negativity with negativity and essentially being a shitty person to others. So I'm asking you, even if someone you think deserves that level of treatment, or you're angry at something, you want to post about it and be mean and angry and negative, take that step back, take a deep breath, take a step back, detach yourself from those negative emotions and just remove yourself from the situation. Close your laptop, put your phone down. Don't post the story. Don't repost it. Don't type the tweet, whatever. By doing that, you're minimizing the negativity and crappiness going on in the world and in your world, and you're allowing yourself the capacity to go do more positive, productive things with your life in that situation, like exercising per se. But because the emotions are so heavily attached to those moments, it does make it the most difficult thing to do. And it's something I work on constantly each and every day. I try to focus on it because it's very hard to do in the moment. All right, number three, the most important one, be genuinely thankful and grateful for all the good you have in your lives. Take some time, a few seconds each day to start off. Think about at least one good thing in your life and think about what your life would be like without that thing and how crappy your life might be without it. That will immediately put you in a state of gratitude. And when you're in a state of gratitude, you're much less inclined to go be negative to somebody or something. And that, again, allows you the capacity to go focus on more positive, productive things like exercising. And if you follow these three things a little bit each and every day, and then a little bit more, then a little bit more, then a little bit more, repetition, 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 each and every day, consistency, I promise you, you'll be a better, happier, kinder, healthier, less stressed, more genuine human being and a better leader overall in life. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe and put your notifications on for future videos here on YouTube and Apple and Spotify for the podcast. If you have any topics or ideas for future episodes or things you want to hear about or questions or any feedback at all, put it in the comments section at the bottom of this video, or you can DM us directly on Instagram at underscore Spearhead Leadership or on LinkedIn at Spearhead Leadership. And if you leave the comment at the bottom here, leadership in quotations or just leadership in all caps, we'll give you a shout out on a future episode. Thank you guys again. Libretti out.